The production of this video was made possible by donors to the Orchestration Online Patreon initiative. Please consider adding your support to the creation of free educational internet resources by visiting our Patreon page linked below. Hey there, this is your orchestration tutor, Thomas Goss, and welcome back to my short little course on crossover orchestration, talking about my adaptation of the song by the Queen of Tonga, Siwele o Pasifiki, and this was done for the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, one of the greatest orchestras in the world, and Signature Choir, who did the choral arrangements and selected the material, and I worked with, and I just think that they are some of the greatest musicians in the world, too. They're just so phenomenal, and their dedication is incredible. Well, I really recommend that you check out the first two chapters of this, which were just released, and check up on some of the things I have to say about the shuffle beat for Faikava music, and about the structure of the piece and so on. Now, in the second video in this series, I talked about this little duo here with the alto and the baritone, and I did discuss a little bit the little transitional part I talk about at the beginning of that video when I'm going from A flat to A major. And then now here the choir wanted me to go from A major to B flat, right? So we're going up a half step each time, and that's a really common thing in in orchestrations like this, and sometimes with medleys and so on, they'll just keep kind of amping up and kind of pushing up the energy and brightening their voices and so on and so forth just by going up a half step. So the problem is that the way that you usually get there is just by throwing in the new 5, right? So, here in A major, right, the 5 is E major, right? So, in B flat, the 5 is F. So what a lot of orchestrators might do is just throw in like an F7th chord, and then, that would give these singers starting off on this material here, what they need to kind of slide down into B flat major. Okay. But something, like, I'm just constantly trying to find ways to get around that because it's just boring. It's just like, if you do the same thing every time they go up a half step, then wow, how boring could that be? So what I decided to do here was, they had just sung this really beautiful, this very beautiful chorus and so on, and ended on a really beautiful place. So I decided to bring in maybe a little touch of cold breeze here, just a bit of uncertainty, right? So what is going to follow will be triumphant, right? So we just have a little bit of uncertainty here. So I'm going from ending on A major to D minor, right? All right. So trumpet solo, right, which is that pitches are taken over by the first violin, and the strings in general are just pushing into this D minor chord right here, and that is answered by the lower strings here, which is going to trade off over to the harmony here in the horns, and the first and second violins going up here to the pitch of A, which I support from below with an F, and so on, and with all of the other pitches in here, it pretty much sets up F major. So it's yeah. I eventually get to the 5, anyways, right? Because I have to do that because the chord that they're really listening for is that the 5/7 of the one that they're about to walk their way down to, right? So I wouldn't necessarily call it the most ingenious solution, but it brings in a new flavor to the music, and it gives me a chance to sort of exercise my chops a bit as a colorist, right? So solo trumpet all by itself, it just has the most stirring, and when it's moody, it can have the most powerfully lonely sound, right? So we've got that set up, strings fade in from a mezzo forte. We got this little, kind of answering call from the lower strings, and then when the horn harmony comes in, the first violins can play over that, and then that is in turn answered by middle strings and clarinets a deux, and the third horn right in here, right? So, all right, so everything is all set up. Now, what am I orchestrating, though, for this next part of this song? That is this tenor solo. And I think in the previous video, I had closed off by saying this was sort of our Carmina Burana moment. And what I mean by that is it just really sounded to me like, like some of the really incredible baritone solos and that you hear sort of in the middle and towards the end of that piece. They're just really incredible. So there's some of that in this too. He's going up to D and F, and wow, but just what a powerful, beautiful, bright voice that guy has got. So how do I accompany that? Right? How can I make him sound as beefy and as powerful as possible? Okay, now in this case, in the previous lesson, I had talked about accompanying, like in harmony, like a doubling harmony from an octave above, which makes it easy for the players to listen to. Okay, but in this case, I want the sound of his voice to sound incredibly rich and huge. So what I'm giving him is first and third solo horns. Now, people are constantly sort of exploring, when do you pair up 1 with 3? When do you pair up 1 with 2? This is an example of where you would really want 1 and 3 to be playing together. This is really, especially you want to explore, you want to exploit the tendency of the third to really wants to play out, right? They just really want to kind of team up with the first and just play the hell out of the music, right? So that's really not the second's job, right? The second's job is to like be a partner to the first in ways that are kind of trickier and more holistic, right? But in this case, we just have like a really flagrantly exhibitionistic solo, right? It's just really going for it. And I managed to take that all the way to the chorus, right? Okay, so we have a situation here where in the choral arrangement where we've got the tenor like basically doing a call and response thing with the choir, right? So I decided to keep it simple, stupid. Support the choir, don't do anything fancy. So, not only do I have these 2 horns and the middle strings right in here, cellos and violas, playing, sort of full bore. We got everybody's playing forte, right? There's no need to balance things out and say this one's forte, that one's mezzo forte. This is all working together in just beautiful registers, okay? And that is continuing on to the point of the chorus. Okay, and then for the choir, I'm also supporting them in a very beefy way, right? So I've got my sopranos and altos are being supported by the first and second, and then eventually, like when things kind of really climb upwards, the third trumpet as well. I've got my trombones, and bass trombone all working together. Sort of, covering the bass singer here and the baritones there, and this heavy brass chorale. It's got a crisper sound than the horns, right? The horns have a more dense, penetrating sound, and then we kind of have a crisper, sort of flatter kind of a sound playing along with the chorus. Okay. And then, as things progress, that's when I start to add other elements, right? So it's basically octave doubling at first, right? So oboes and clarinets with the violins playing an octave above our already established horns and middle strings. Okay. And then I also supply some octave doubling to the brass and the rest of the choir, heavy brass and the rest of the choir. We've got like the tuba coming in an octave lower, supported by double bass, and we've got flutes above an octave above first. Above the sopranos. Now notice here I changed the harmonization a little bit to expand the range of pitches and the harmony of these brass parts without just completely staying slavish to the choir part. That way I can just really fill in the sound picture beautifully, right? And that goes along so well, I feel, with the timpani here, doing these accents and rolls and so on and so forth, and a little bit of crash on the drums. If I've done my job right, when I set this all up, when I come back to this, I pretty much can reuse the elements that I did in chorus 2, right? So at this point, there really isn't a whole lot of reason to go over this tortuously. A lot of the stuff is really the same as the second verse and chorus. Okay, one last little thing though, and that is right in here. I wanted to bring the shuffle beat to an end, right, and then just allow the choir to have the last word with a bit of punch from the orchestra. So they're pushing up to this F, and that is such a bright note, right? The sopranos on this F, the altos on this C, and those tenors. This should be tenors, not baritone. Tenors pushing on that A up there. The range of these singers is just so much greater, especially with the tenors. The tenors, man, they could just sing alto parts. They're just really have a lot of range, and so do the basses. So anyways, so they're playing this, they're singing this big F major chord, and so I have got a roll from below, timpani, tremolo on the lower strings, and we also have some sounding F octaves here in our horns, and also trombones. This is tenor clef and bass trombone. So just really just pushing that F, right? And then here I go to like a harmonized accompaniment of the choir as things walk down. And instead of having like a beautiful little melody drifting down from below, which I finish a couple other songs like that, here I just push to a marcato accent, just killing everything off, and I warn the drummer to damp their cymbal just right afterwards, so it just really has a crisp boom. And wow, this, if the audience wasn't going to go nuts at the end of the song anyway, because they love signature choir, they just totally, were all in on this after just getting this big kick in the pants, right? So I'll tell you what, let's stop there. And, once again, just like a few last words here. I just really appreciate the patience everybody is giving me right now as I try to deal with all of these really confusing, distressing things happening in my life. And people have been really patient and supportive and kind, and really willing to give me the time that I need to get things back together again. And let me tell you that is something that goes way beyond my expectations, and really, I just think you guys are the greatest. Once again, the greatest community on the internet. Just in terms of supporting each other as developing artists and making it possible for me to do all of this. I just could not do it without you. So thank you, Patreon supporters. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, members of my various little social media groups. Especially the Facebook group. I really am so appreciative of the kindness you've shown me and each other too. And I hope to get things back on track. Perhaps by the end of February, we might start to see some orchestration challenge evaluations come in, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. Okay, but I've got to get through this visit to the United States first, which I have no idea what's going to happen with my mother's health. I'm trying to stay optimistic, and all of that. But yeah, things aren't looking too great. I'm sorry to say, but anyways, she's an incredible person, and it's just really a shame that I have to live here in New Zealand. And I can't just drop in. It's not a shame to live in New Zealand. It's fantastic to live here, but it's a pity that I can't just be there all the time when she needs some help. So, anyways, I gotta go take care of that. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for the support. Thank you for the views and the reactions and the comments and everything else. And when people are telling me how they are learning things and how something that I create has helped them. Or has given them something that they can use. It really is so great. So it's such a, just really makes me feel like what I'm doing here is reaching somebody and helping them, and that's really all I care about in the end. So I will see you guys. I will be probably posting in the Facebook group and on Patreon, and just kind of letting everybody know how that's going. All right. So. See you all soon with hopefully some more detailed, less off-the-cuff kinds of content.
Folla I henu si per